Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing okay. I know it's early, but this story was kind of on my queue and I wanted to get it out the way before I leave today. Yesterday, and in fact, let me start in a different place. I'm checking the sound. While I do this, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. And at this point, the channel has been remonetized, so you can also support through Super Chats. And by the way, all support helps. It's the thing that keeps this channel ticking along. When this chapter in American history is written, there's going to be a liberal use of the word sad, a liberal use of the word historical, and allusions to a Red Scare 2.0. Fact of the matter is that the United States, for the last 2 years, has screamed and howled, particularly the media, that Donald Trump has colluded with the Russian government in some way, and the Democrats have used this for a political witch hunt. The Mueller investigation is kicked off with dribbles of information coming out about Russia this, Russia that, the boogeyman, they're hiding under the sewers, they're doing this, they're doing that. Be scared of the Russian bear. There's something out there that's trying to get you. The Democrats have their boogeyman of Russians and the Republicans have their boogeyman of immigrants. Nobody wants to deal with the issues that are actually affecting the country itself. Yesterday, the Justice Department indicted or charged a Russian woman, with conspiracy to defraud the United States. Now, what does that mean? Because that's a weird way of saying things. But what it means is she was putting Facebook and Twitter ads. Facebook and Twitter ads. That's what she was doing. And this, they say, is defrauding the United States and is warranting of charges. It looks like the Mueller investigation is looking to legitimize itself with these ridiculous charges that would never come to fruition because the woman is from St. Petersburg. This is a show trial. This is a show trial. There are two things to take away from this, and there's more, but let's say one main thing, or two. Even if everything they're saying is true, meaning it doesn't necessarily blow me away that a foreign government may try to influence the elections to try to get, let's say, a better positioning. We influence elections all the time. The story comes out in 2011 that the United States was using sock puppet accounts all throughout the world. So let's be honest, what we're talking about here. You can't have it both ways. You can't say we can punch other people in the face, but the moment that somebody runs a Twitter and Facebook ad, they flip out. This has been used for political effect, and has been used for political effect to attack Donald Trump, but to also attack the left. To attack the left. Let's do the story first before we get into it. But one part. Revolutions are usually fomented in governments where there are problems already in the government itself. The information that they were pushing here wasn't specifically related to Trump, meaning it wasn't the Russians were trying to get Trump elected, if you want to go by what they're saying. It was in both ways, meaning it was pro and against. It was, in their case, to try to create a certain degree of division in the society itself. But the divisions that they were talking about, quote unquote, creating were already there. They were already there. This clumsy effort to inflame these things, and the ridiculous way that Facebook comes out and says, oh, there's over 1 million views of people that viewed it. Out of how many? Out of how many? This is a witch hunt. One, nothing to do with Trump. I don't like Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. Nothing at all to do with Trump. The stories were going both ways, meaning it was attacking in multiple directions of the left and the right. And two, the issues that affect your country are not coming from outside of your country, full stop. Regardless of what the media is trying to tell you on this, it is imperative that you understand that the divisions, the social bonds that are breaking in the country itself has more to do with this kind of death rattle of capitalism, of many of the people who are retiring with no money in the bank. They work their entire life, no money in the bank. I'd feel some kind of way if that was me. The number of people who have to make the choice between healthcare and pills. Again, that has nothing to do with the Russians. Whether or not, the bill that a person gets, and whether or not the person can afford healthcare, that has nothing to do with the Russians. Whether or not a person can go to school without having $50,000 of debt on their backs, that has nothing to do with the Russians. The issues that avail your country has nothing to do with the Russians. And pointing the finger out, either to Russians or immigrants, will get you nowhere. This is the system itself, the establishment, trying to make excuses for their failures and trying to blame somebody else for the problems that are in the culture itself. Let's take a look at the story. The Department of Justice has charged a Russian woman for working with a close Putin ally with conspiring to interfere with the 2018 midterms. By how, Jamarl? By issuing Facebook and Twitter ads. I'm being serious. The woman is being charged for Facebook and Twitter ads. I'm not going to keep this story long. They released this last night. The Department of Justice announced on Friday that it had charged a Russian woman with conspiring to interfere with the 2018 midterm elections. I'm going to put two. The original story that I started with was from the Washington Post, and I wanted a little bit more information, so I went to the Business Insider. The woman, Elena Kushavanova, is accused of playing a central financial role in a social media influence operation known as Project Lakata that prosecutors say continues to this day. Prosecutors say the project is bankrolled by the Russian businessman, these names, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and two companies he controls. Prigozhin is a close associate with Vladimir Putin, and his close companies are charged earlier this year, along with 13 other Russian nationals and entities, with conspiring to meddle in the 2016 Russian election. One of the companies came to the States. They were charged with no expectation of anybody ever coming to the States to contest the charges, meaning we can charge you all we want because we have no expectation of you ever coming back to do anything about it, except one came back and one wanted discovery. Show us what you got. And the prosecutor wasn't ready, which is amazing since the prosecutor is the one that bought the case. They bought a case as a show trial. They had no expectation that this would ever come to fruition. Let's keep going. The woman, Elena Kushnova, was charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States. Prosecutors say she is from St. Petersburg, Russian city, where the Internet Research Agency, a so-called troll farm, is headquartered, and is the chief accountant for the influence operation with the code name Project Akata, which translates roughly to bay or inlet. The Department of Justice describes the operation as a Russian umbrella effort funded by the Russian oligarch Prigozhin and two companies he controls, Concord Management and Consulting and Concord Catering. Now, these were the companies that were charged earlier in the year. Here's another part. Well, I'll do that in a separate video, just so I don't keep this video long. The wild part about this is Facebook and Twitter ads. Like, if your country is to such an extent where, let me say it this way. I don't think, one, the public itself may think that Russia has something to do with it because the media has screamed about it for 2 years. But when you look at polls, they don't care. The issues that affect them are not this. They don't associate the Russians as being the source of their problems. They associate the system to which they operate in as the source of their problems. A rapacious capitalistic system that seeks to grab everything that it can get its hands on as it falls apart. Not the goddamn Russians. And you're charging, oh man, this is aggravating. There's another report that comes out where the Politico says, prepare to be disappointed. Prepare to be disappointed. And they're talking to the people who are into the Russian Gate conspiracy, that Russia has something to do with it. Look, even if you want to think that Russia somehow was pushing this stuff in order to influence the election for nefarious reasons, that may or may not be true. It had nothing to do with Trump. Nothing at all. And fact is, these divisions, that black guy who was shot by that cop wasn't angry at Russia or wasn't pissed off because of Russia. He was pissed off because the cop got away. The person who's the environmentalist, who's looking at the world and environment and looking at this hair on fire UN report and says, oh my God, we got to do something. These maniacs are destroying the planet. That has nothing to do with Russia. That has everything to do with these maniacs are destroying the planet. I'm making the point that all of this has to do with what's taking place within the country itself, not external factors. The system itself is trying to preserve itself by pointing to things that are outside. The issue is not outside, the issue is inside. The bill has come due. It's not the goddamn Russians. It's not the goddamn Russians. And the idea you're charging a woman Facebook and Twitter ads, and they know goddamn well that these charges would never come to fruition because the person would never come back, so they could charge the woman with peeing on the moon for all goodness sake. I don't think anybody is going to be here, so I'm going to end this, and I'm going to put these links at the bottom to Business Insider. This is a show trial. Look back at historical precedent when you had the Red Scare. This is not much different, with one exception. The public itself is not cowed into one stream of thought, meaning the internet has allowed the public to get a different viewpoint of the world where they're not completely isolated to what they're being told by people in authority and people in power. That is a good thing, and that is a magnificent thing. So I'm going to end this here. I'm not going to keep this long because I have additional shows that I want to do. But sad, humiliating charge of Russian to justify the existence of the investigation that is about to come to an end, and what I would predict, no collusion between the Trump administration and the Russian government. Fucking pathetic. They've ran with this for 2 years with this idea of scaring the public. And what do they have to show for it? Facebook and Twitter ads. Facebook and Twitter ads. That's great. You charged a woman for pushing Facebook and Twitter ads. What does that say about your country? That Facebook and Twitter ads is the thing that you're trying to make the argument that undermine democracy itself. They undermine democracy. How? Because they were writing bad things on Twitter and Facebook. How powerful of a democracy you are. This is the thing that bugs you. And by the way, again, we do this all over the world. The argument is being made here with with a straight face. They're making this argument. Democrats have made this argument. Many of these guys will make this argument with a straight fucking face. We destroyed a country just in recent memory. They're selling black slaves in Libya right now. They're selling slaves in Libya. They weren't selling slaves in Libya before. They're selling them now because the United States, working with its Western powers, destroyed a country, breaking all norms of international law. Not to mention Iraq, not to mention Afghanistan, not to mention us illegally being in Syria. I'm making the point that this is nonsense. This is fucking nonsense. Oh, they put Facebook and Twitter ads, and we're angry and upset. And now we need to talk about it for 2 years and have an investigation. I'm sorry, this is sad and pathetic. And when this is written down in the annals of history, it will be a humiliating time for many of the people who were in power. Maybe not. They don't shame all that well. But it will be known as a lunatic, hysterical, pink scare. I don't even want to call it red scare. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the Patreon. Thanks all.